think it's good.
Okay. All right, my clock says 5:30. So this regular meeting of the Administration Committee is called to order. Present are, I see Roxanne Marr, I see Eric Treaster, Councilor Naomi Rodriguez, P&Z member Nate Woody, I see residents Paul and Sue Billing, resident Jim Harwood, Councilor Whit Irwin, Bruce Gartzka. Bruce, are you with the Ag Commission?
That is correct.
Thank you. I see Rob Barnett. I see our planner, Juliet Hodge. Juliet, you're on here twice. I see resident Jessica Cobb. And who is Molly Mia Photo and Film?
This is Molly Barnett.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Hi, Molly.
Hi.
Okay. Citizens' comments.
This is Eric Treaster. Andra, I'm only here to answer questions if anybody has any questions. Otherwise, I'm not going to say anything tonight.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Treaster. Any other citizens' comments?
Yes, I have a citizen comment, Robert Barnett.
Go ahead.
And I would like to express my support for the revised ordinance and the revised short-term rental ordinance and the penalties that have been added. Ordinance that we have is reasonable, and there has been zero party problems at 100% of the rentals that got a short-term rental permit. Adding penalties, I hope, will finally regulate the other houses that did not bother to get a permit. And those, the party houses are those houses. And that seems to be the problem with citizens. In hindsight, it was a huge mistake not to have those enforcement provisions at the get-go, but that's hindsight. And I certainly did not predict that it would be unenforceable. So I believe now it should be. All of the complaints that I've been aware of, all the complaints that I'm aware of are at homes that made no effort at all to comply. They did not even fill out an application for an STR permit. And additional complaints were made at Long Pond targeted at myself or my family and had nothing to do with the short-term renters or with a party house problem. If you would like the details on those, I could provide them, or Mr. Cherry could. I have two questions though for the committee. If the Planning and Zoning Commission tomorrow evening passes the new regulation amendments proposed by Mr. Treaster, does that nullify all the work done here on this ordinance? And are the current permits taken back, the short-term rental permits that exist now? And then another
Are you there?
I think he froze.
I think he did. Okay, I'm gonna move on and then give him, oh, Mr. Barnett, are you there? You froze up for a minute.
am I here now?
Yeah, you froze up for maybe 20 or 30 seconds.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. So we heard your question about if the zoning regulation is passed, would that mean that any permits issued under the ordinance are revoked? What is your other question?
My other one is that about the need for a property owner to be on site at the house and the possibility of security cameras that could monitor it instead of the actual person being on site.
Okay.
And just to embellish that a wee bit, They all have recordings. They only cost like $30 now. There could be several on the property. It's cheaper than a water test. And they all have recordings. So the zoning enforcement officer on Monday morning could roll back the footage if there were any complaints that weekend, et cetera.
Okay. Thank you for your comments, Mr. Barnett.
welcome.
Are there any other citizen comments?
Yes, Ms. Ingles.
Yes.
This is Nate Woody, 770 Long Cove Road. I wish to speak regarding Hillary's reappointment to the Planning and Zoning Commission. A couple of perfunctory comments first. When Hillary was a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission for several years, her attendance was excellent. She was always willing to volunteer when extra work was needed to be done. She was never anything other than a perfectly good commissioner. So Ms. Ingles was correct when she stated at the last town council meeting that being on the Planning and Zoning Commission, you can say things that can cause a liability for the town. This is part of the reason why the legislature recently mandated training for commissioners so that they would know the law and know how to act appropriately. Ms. Evans has already attended Yukon Clear's Land Use Academy and the Connecticut Bar's biannual land use workshop, and so she's already actually trained and knowledgeable. I'd also like to point out that the new commissioner appointed at the December town council meeting had none of this training, yet they were appointed without discussion. I'm also not quite sure what was meant at the last town council meeting regarding activists and why that is a pejorative or disqualifying term. If we look up what activism means, the definition is activism consists of efforts to promote, impede, direct, or intervene in social, political, economic, or environmental reform with a desire to make changes in society toward a perceived greater good. Now, Mr. Sons and Ms. Ingles have not attended that training that myself, Hillary have had. And so maybe you don't know that to have an opinion about the development direction of the community is far from a disqualifying characteristic for the PZC. To quote the Connecticut Supreme Court, the law does not require that members of zoning commissions must have no opinion concerning the proper development of their communities. It would be strange indeed if this were true, end quote. All commissioners have an interest in the direction that this community should develop. That's why they volunteered. So rather than a qualification is that the commissioner is able to look at any specific application with an open mind. I know of no cases where Ms. Evans has been unable to do that, and no one has forwarded any such case. We want people who care deeply about the community and want to play an active role in its development. Instead, various claims about social media posts have been made. Never has anyone brought these to my attention while I was chair. I am not aware of anyone bringing these concerns to staff, nor has anyone been willing to share these as part of this process. This committee should be very careful to apply the same criteria to all volunteers. And since social media vetting does not seem to be a part of this process, I'd advise the committee to proceed very carefully and make sure it is acting even-handedly. Finally, it's worth noting that Hillary would be filling the exact seat that she left vacant when she was called by the town to serve in a capacity that prevented her from continuing serving on the Planning and Zoning Commission, namely to serve on the town council. Her seat remained empty for several months until the election when she immediately volunteered again. In that intervening time, no one else volunteered. No one else came forward until Hillary had already been unanimously approved by this administration committee in November without any issue other than an administrative time and concern. So we have a qualified, trained volunteer who has done everything the town has asked of her, yet suddenly is potentially not qualified for the role. It's not clear to me whether this is personal, political, or simply a mistaken understanding of the qualifications to be on the Planning and Zoning Commission. However, before you vote tonight, I'd like you all to take a moment and think of a volunteer on one of the many commissions and boards in towns that you interact with recently. Then ask yourself how this decision to make a volunteer reappointment, a gauntlet with unknown standards or requirements, will impact them and impact our ability to attract and retain qualified volunteers for technical boards like the Planning and Zoning Commission. I know how it impacts me and how it sours me on this process. So please respect the volunteers who make the many roles in this town government work, treat them fairly and equally, and renominate Ms. Evans to the town council for a seat on the Planning and Zoning Commission, just as you did 2 months ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Woody. Are there any other citizen comments?
Madam Chairman, Tony Capon. I am the current chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I echo Mr. Woody's comments. I want to point out that when Ms. Evans was appointed to the Planning and Zoning Commission, she admitted she didn't know a whole lot about the commission. She volunteered to work with Mike Cherry to learn as much as she could about the workings of the commission. She is highly qualified. I would also point out there's a bit of an irony here. Had Miss Evans not resigned from planning and zoning because she took a position on town council. When Mike Cherry resigned from planning and zoning because she had more time on planning and zoning than I did, she would have been named to Mike Cherry's vacancy. It is likely that at this point, she, instead of I, would be the chairman of planning and zoning. If she's qualified to be the chairman of planning and zoning, she's certainly qualified to refill her own vacancy. I would also echo Mr. Woody's concerns about the message we are sending to volunteers. This town relies on the goodwill of volunteers. We need people to volunteer to serve on boards and commissions. If we start sending a message to members of our boards and commissions that your valued service on our boards and commissions will not be rewarded, we're going to find that people who volunteer for the good of the town will decide it's not worth the effort. They won't volunteer. I would also point out that Planning and Zoning Commission has an almost 60-year history of operating in a nonpartisan, bipartisan manner. Our votes are almost always unanimous. When they are not, they never break down along partisan lines. We have people who are dedicated volunteers, and Hillary is one of them. If we start politicizing our boards and commissions, we're going to find that the kind of people we want on our boards and commissions will simply not serve. And the people who do serve will be people who have personal agendas that motivate them. I can see no reason why we would not reappoint someone to her own vacancy who has shown over 3 years that she's qualified. I, as the current chairman, support her reappointment. Nate Woody, as the immediate past chairman, support her renomination. The current and former members of the commission who have served with Hillary support her renomination. I can see no reason why, other than reasons that have not been stated, that we would not reappoint her. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Capon. Are there any other citizen comments?
I will.
Molly Barnett, I
Okay.
think I hear you.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Hey, I'm Molly, owner of 46 Long Pond Road, and I would also just like to state my support for the revised ordinance and the penalties. I know there is consideration of passing additional STR rules tomorrow night that would ban non-hosted rentals, possibly due to complaints, including some towards my own house on Long Pond. So I would just like to clarify that there has never been a party reported at our property, and we have been following the ordinance's rules very strictly. And I did request a list of all complaints that have ever been made about our property, and they were all from one specific neighbor. And I carefully read them and realized every complaint has actually been about my own family visiting and using the boathouse next to my cottage, and actually not about any renters. So I could prove that, and I'm sure other neighbors in the neighborhood could definitely verify that there's been no renter issues. So I'm just afraid that if this is passed tomorrow night and non-hosted is not allowed, then we'll have to close down our cottages, my dad and I, and turn them into long-term rentals instead of short-term rentals. And I think many people believe that this might actually be more problematic. So I do support the current ordinance, and I'm okay with adding more rules and regulations within reason. But if we pass the changes that, if it negates all the work in progress we've made to this point, in banning the non-hosted rentals, I just think that maybe something else could solve the issue at hand, which is like enforcing and regulating the rentals better. I think the rentals that are following the ordinance are not a problem, and maybe instead we should just add enforcement and penalties to people who have not even bothered to pull a permit. because we've spent thousands of dollars and have like really tried really hard to follow and comply to the existing ordinance. And I think the reasoning behind wanting to add to remove non-hosted rentals is that if they think that if someone lives at the property, he or she will be able to monitor the number of guests in the cars and make sure there's no parties. But if that really is the reason, like Bobby said, isn't security cameras outside the property, isn't that a simple fix to monitoring? Because that could easily, we actually do have security cameras that point towards the front door, the driveway, and the street. And so we could easily look back and see the number of cars and the number of guests that have entered our property. So we could definitely share that information with others at any time if requested. And I think that would be a simple alternative to the banning the non-hosted. So that's just one thing to consider. And I think it's just smart to think about the alternative as well, because if we transition to long-term rentals, there won't be any rules and regulations that we have right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly. Are there any other citizen comments?
Paul and Sue Billing.
Sure. There's a little problem with your audio. You're echoing a little.
Okay, I don't know if I should turn the volume down perhaps, or.
Try turning the volume down on your laptop.
Okay.
Well,
How's that?
Worse. Good.
That's worse. Maybe I should go higher then.
Do you have are you on by phone and by laptop?
No, just my laptop.
Okay, because sometimes when you do both, you get that echoing.
No, it's just strictly a laptop.
Well, Mr. Billing, give it a go and we will do our best to listen past the echo.
Okay, it's pretty short and sweet. We both, Paul and Sue Billing, 8 Riverside Place, Gales Ferry, we both would like to speak in favor of the ordinance changes proposed for the short-term rentals. We both hosted short-term rentals both in Ledyard, Gales Ferry, and in Groton, and with a tremendous amount of experience with them. And we feel that the revised ordinance will definitely be an enhancement to allowing them. They're a great asset to any community, and just like to speak in favor of them.
Thank you, Mr.
That's it. Hope it came through.
We got you.
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, are there any other citizen comments?
Andrea, this is Jim Harwood. I'd like to respond to Molly's comment about the use of video cameras to call the problems. That's fine and good, except the video cameras are after the fact. And so you can go back after there's been a problem and after a neighbor has made a complaint and look back and see what the problem was. Those of us who live next to the problematic STRs are not interested in after the fact saying this was the problem. We're interested in not having that party. We're interested in not having those people come over onto our property. And we're interested in not having the noise and the swearing. We're not interested in being able to chart it after the fact. So that's my comment.
Thank you. Okay, I see a comment from Jessica Cobb that she has a quick question.
Yeah, this is Jessica Cobb. Can you hear me?
I can. Is it a comment or is it a question about an agenda item?
It's a question about the noise ordinance that is proposed in this short-term rental, the short-term rental proposal. Jessica Cobb, 7 Whippoorwill Drive, Gales Ferry. I'm just wondering if it is, I guess, legal or proper to put a noise ordinance, or if it's fair to put a noise ordinance in this particular ordinance when we don't have a general noise ordinance for the town. I don't think it has a place in, such a narrow application. So
Okay.
I just would like to know whether that, would be fair. So that's it.
Thank you. Are there any other citizen comments?
Andrea, could I respond to that for a moment?
Mr. Harwood,
Yes.
I'm gonna allow it, but I actually want to get to the agenda item because we might not be doing this through ordinance very long anyway. We're
Okay.
really moving towards zoning.
Very,
So
very quick comment then.
go
At
right,
three-
go ahead.
At 3 in.the morning, it's not fair to the neighbors next door for the noise. It doesn't matter whether the ordinance says 9, 10, or 11. At 3 in.the morning, they haven't obeyed any of them. So, if there's not an ordinance in the town for noise, maybe there should be. That's all.
Okay, thank you. All right, are there any other citizen comments? Okay, we're gonna move on. I have no informational items. Review and approval of prior meeting. I move that I make a motion to approve the organizational meeting minutes of December 8th, 2021, and the regular meeting minutes of December 8th, 2021. Mr. Irwin, can I have a second?
I will second that.
Did you see any changes, edits, comments?
I did not see any that need to be made now.
Okay, thank you. Are you ready to vote?
I am.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries, minutes are approved. Okay, under old business. Now this is where it's gonna get a little bit hairy. Miss Hodge, I am going to be depending on you to help with this. So I will make the motion. I motion to adopt proposed amendments to ordinance 300-030, an ordinance regulating short-term rentals in the town of Ledyard as contained in the draft dated November 16th, 2021. In addition, recommend the town council adopt a proposed ordinance 300-030 appendix fee schedule as contained in the draft dated November 16th, 2021. Mr. Irwin, do I hear a second?
I will second that motion.
Thank you. So here's where we're at. Forgive me for repeating myself. A couple of years ago, as we studied this, it was in land use for a long time, and then it came to admin for a long time. The opinion of the town attorney, the then Planning and Zoning Commission, the then planner, and as municipalities across the country were looking at this, it was largely favored to handle it through an ordinance. 2 years later, here we are, and now it's really favored to handle it through zoning. My initial inkling back 2 years ago was that it belonged in zoning, but I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a land use attorney. So we take the advice of those who know more than we do. So here we are looking to enforce this through zoning. Now, planning and zoning is going to be looking at this again tomorrow night. I believe the public hearing closes on the issue tomorrow night. And it is possibly even up for a vote. Mr. Capon, is that correct?
That is correct. Planning and zoning will hold a public hearing tomorrow evening at our regularly scheduled meeting at 7 o'clock. After the public hearing, it is possible that we will vote on regulations. And it is possible that we will adopt regulations. That clearly has an impact on what council does. And so the issue here is whether council wants to adopt an ordinance that may be obviated by the action that planning and zoning takes tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm. So, thank you. And that's really kind of the point here is how do we find our way forward and bridge this gap? So, Ms. Hodge, you had mentioned to me that anyone who secured a permit, say in the last few months, will be able to operate under that permit, under the ordinance for a full 12 months.
Correct.
So I'm not clear on what that gap looks like. So, so the person who, renewed their permit in October, say, how do we handle enforcement until the ordinance, until there's nobody left operating under the ordinance?
So whoever has a permit, so whoever's legal right now, so presumably not a problem for us. Those people will be governed under the ordinance, and whatever the ordinance says for enforcement or for requirements, that's what we would go by for those folks. Everybody else would be subject to the zoning regs. So those who didn't have a permit to begin with, would immediately get a letter, a notice of violation, and everybody who wanted to have an STR who don't have a permit currently would have to come in for a special permit. So there is no gap really. Those who have a permit right now, their permit's fine. They can keep their permit for the year that it would have been valid anyway. The new zoning reg, should it be adopted, would be applicable to anybody who doesn't currently have a permit. So anybody who wants to have an STR who doesn't have one right now, or the illegal STRs, bringing them into compliance. So I don't see a gap actually.
Okay, so I think we need to proceed with the fee schedule, or what do you think? Does the ordinance need to adopt a fee schedule for those who will be operating under the permit?
I mean, you can adopt it now for timely, to just in case the planning and zoning doesn't adopt this regulation, then you don't have to come back and do it later. But I can't really answer that. It sort of depends what the Planning and Zoning Commission does. If you think that you are going to encourage STRs to be regulated under zoning, where I believe they should be, as it's a land use, then you don't need to, no. But I mean, fee schedule or fine schedule, are you saying?
Andra, I just wanted to point out that the fee schedule that is in addition to item 1 would have been a fee schedule that was attached to the short-term rental ordinance. Item number 2 is addressing zoning citation stuff. And then Juliet has been working on another fee schedule that would accompany the zoning regulation portion of the short-term rental. So if you decide that you don't want to go with the ordinance, then that fee schedule that it would have been an appendix would just go away. That was just proposed as part of the amendment to the ordinance.
Okay.
That makes sense?
It does. I'm really inclined to table this until after the planning and zoning meeting tomorrow night.
Madam Chairman, Tony Capon, Chairman of Planning and Zoning. I was going to recommend that anyway. I think the best course of action for the council is to wait and see what we do tomorrow night. You can postpone this till your next meeting. If we take no action, then you can proceed. If we take action, then what you choose to do will be dependent upon what we choose to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the attorney, I did speak to the attorney, and there's one other section, or one other line in the new STR zoning regulation that will be added to clarify exactly what some people are concerned about, the existing people with an STR permit. So I'm just going to put a disclaimer at the end. Anybody who has a current permit, that permit is valid for the 1-year term of that permit. And after that date, when it expires, they'll be required to come in for the special permit for an STR. So we'll clarify that so it's clear. And then it should be also noted, in case anybody was curious, I guess there's a scenario where some people have historically rented their cottages weekly or, long before zoning. And those folks would be grandfathered in. So if they can prove that that's in fact what they had been doing.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to move to table item 1. Roxanne, do I need a
second?
second? Rox?
Yeah, we'll vote on tabling. We don't, because of the issue.
Oh,
So
okay.
second.
So do I have to withdraw the motion before or table it, or tell
No.
me?
No, just move to table and then Whit can second, and then we would vote on the motion to table. That would be it.
Okay, so I move to table item 1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion tabled. Okay. And so motion 2 is to extend the ordinance in case we need to extend it. I'd like to table that as well.
I'll make that motion to table item number 2.
Second.
Or on this number, because you didn't move it, you could just take no action.
Okay, we'll take no action on item 2. Item 3, I make a motion to recommend the town council adopt proposed amendments to ordinance 300-009 and ordinance establishing citations for zoning violations as contained in a draft dated January 5th, 2022. Mr. Irwin, can I have a second?
I will second that motion.
Thank you. So this is in response to, so this is the town attorney actually recommended that we draft a proposed amendment to the ordinance to provide the process for citations for short-term rental non-compliance. Wait.
That's not what this one
Right.
is.
So that's what this one is. That's the background information here.
Yeah, actually, Andra, we updated this. We took the short-term rental part out, so it's not, the motion is an old item. That's why it's written that way. But if you look at the updated draft of January 5th, this is, as we were going through this exercise, it was discovered that if we're not going to address it through short-term rentals, then an ordinance will take that back out. And it's just some administrative corrections and updates that were discovered while we were going through the exercise. So it's really pretty much non-substantive changes, but just to clean it up.
Okay, I see the changes are removing some redundant language and then adding that it's in accordance with the town charter.
Right.
All right, are there any questions about this ordinance?
I do not have any.
Okay. Are you ready to vote, Mr. Irwin?
I am.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Any other old business to come before the committee? Seeing none. Okay. We're going to move into new business. Mr. Irwin, would you like to make the motion on item 1 under new business?
Certainly, I'll make a motion to recommend the town council appoint Ms. Arlene Brown, Republican, 259 Gallop Hill Road, Ledyard, to the Senior Citizens Commission to complete a 2-year term ending December 9th, 2023, filling the vacancy left by Ms. Doherty.
Second. So her application is attached. Any questions, comments?
I have none.
I have none. So ready to vote?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I'll make the next motion to recommend the town council appoint Ms. Marcia Dykes, Republican, 977 Shoeville Road, Ledyard, to the Senior Citizens Commission to complete a 2-year term ending December 9th, 2023, filling a vacancy left by Ms. Winston.
Second.
So, yeah, her application is attached. I know Marcia. I think she'll be a terrific fit. No concerns. Any questions, comments?
I suppose I should make a comment that on page 1, if anybody's looking at her, at the item, the Ledyard RTC nominating committee endorses Mrs. Brown was noted to be a typo, a copy and paste error, and not a repudiation of Ms. Dykes.
Thank you. All right, are you ready to vote?
I am.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We're on item 3. Mr. Irwin, would you like to make that motion?
Make the motion to recommend the town council reappoint Public Works Director, Mr. Steve Maslin, as an alternate member of the Southeastern Connecticut Regional Resource Recovery Authority, the SCRRA, for a 3-year term ending January 31, 2025.
Second. So on the SCARA board, it is largely made up of senior public works officials for participating towns. So Mr. Maslin gets to be on the SCARA board. Any questions?
None here.
Ready to vote?
I am.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. I'll make the next one. I make a motion to recommend the town council reappoint Mr. John Rodolico, Republican, 40 Long Pond Road, South, Ledyard, to the retirement board for a 3-year term ending January 20th, 2025.
Second.
It's just reappointment.
Does that need to be seconded then?
Yeah.
Yes.
I second the motion.
Questions, comments?
None.
Ready to vote?
I am.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Would you like to make the next motion?
Certainly. Make the motion to recommend the town council appoint Roger Cotting, Republican, 13 Hemlock Circle, Gales Ferry, to the retirement board as a regular member to complete a 3-year term ending January 20th, 2025, filling a vacancy left by Mr. Markart.
Second. So Mr. Cotting has been an alternate on the retirement board, and he is filling a vacancy left by Mr. Markart. Any questions?
None, and I am ready to vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Is it me next?
It is.
Item 6, I make a motion to recommend the town council reappoint Mr. Gerald Tominski, unaffiliated, 58 Partridge Hollow, Gales Ferry, to the Permanent Municipal Building Committee for a 3-year term ending March 26th, 2025.
Second.
Questions, comments?
None.
Ready to vote?
I am.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Would you like to make the next one?
Andre, you have to, just because we're revisiting it, have to be somebody who voted for it before.
Okay. Okay. I make a motion to recommend the town council appoint Ms. Hillary Evans, D, 1538, Route 12, Unit 16, Gales Ferry, to the Planning and Zoning Commission as an alternate member to complete a 3-year term ending October 21, 2023, filling a vacancy left by Ms. Evans. Do I hear a second? Motion is not seconded.
We have 2 people available to here to fill the vacancy.
Mhm.
Should we consider them together in the same motion, or?
We could do that. We could table Ms. Evans and discuss the second one and consider them together.
I think I'd like to table this motion and visit the next one and then consider them together.
Okay.
So I make a
Roxanne?
motion to table the previous motion.
Okay, so you're voting, you're moving to table.
I am.
Second. All right, so we're going to move on to motion 8. I motion to appoint Mr. Terry Alt, Republican, 3 Vinegar Hill Road, Ledyard, as an alternate member to the Planning and Zoning Commission, as an alternate member to complete a 3-year term ending October 21, 2023, filling a vacancy left by Ms. Evans.
Second.
Alternate member in there twice, I'm sorry.
I see that. Okay, so yes, we have 2 candidates for this seat. I'm just gonna reiterate my concerns with Ms. Evans serving in this role. And yes, my concerns are about an accusation she made, identifying herself as a zoning commissioner and accusing zoning boards of using their weight to keep minorities out of their towns. When asked to defend the statement, she excused herself from defending it. But part of my concern is really that this is what I said to the council, and it's still my concern. The wrong words in the wrong place at the wrong time can land the town in legal trouble, including a lawsuit for libel. I'm not comfortable with Ms. Evans serving in this role. It is not personal. If it were, I would have not put her name forward for another commission that she was appointed to. I understand it's a heavy lift. I understand there are other capable people ready to learn. So it's not even necessarily about being a hard worker. It's about getting, it's about getting the town in trouble.
I
Mr.
look at, if I may say something, I'm looking at the current makeup of the Planning and Zoning Commission. There are 3 Democrats, a Republican, and undecided, with 2
Affiliated.
Republicans as alternates. I'm sorry, unaffiliated. My apologies. And then under the alternates, we have 2 Republicans. If we were to recommend Ms. Evans' appointment, then there would be 4 Democrats, which is the maximum for a 5-member committee. Should the Republican or the unaffiliated depart. And I would like to keep that committee a bit more balanced. I don't have any experience with Ms. Evans, but I think that having the option, having the ability to put more Republicans on the committee and keeping it balanced that way is probably a good thing.
Okay. Roxanne, I need protocol help.
Oh, Naomi has her hand up. I don't know if you.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Rodriguez.
So I wanted to give you some information from our conversation at the last town council meeting. And I had asked if I could see that social media post, and I still haven't seen it yet. I did keep my word, and I did call Miss Evans to speak to her about that. She is unaware of that post.
Yes, I'm confused. I sent it to you that night. Maybe
Yeah,
I don't
I
have
don't have
the
it.
correct email address for you.
What, can you just say the email address you have for me?
It's like Naocry or something like that.
NAOCRY, because it was written wrong in the town council roster.
Oh, if it was written wrong, then I sent it to whatever I had.
So I'm sorry that I didn't receive it, but the email is incorrect. So yeah, it's naocry@comcast.net. But also, so I did speak to her, and because it was mentioned that no one had spoken to her about that social media post. She did not remember it. She didn't even remember making it. I have not seen it. I don't think anyone on town council has seen it, including Mr. Irwin. But I did do my additional homework, and I spoke to Mike Cherry, Tony Capone, and Nate Woody. And they all said the same thing, that it's not easy being on planning and zoning, and I can attest to that. I was on it for 10 years, and my last year or 2, I was the vice chair. You need someone who is experienced for the benefit and the liability of the town, you need to make sure you have someone who is qualified. Hillary is qualified. You can say she's already had her hand slapped. I don't believe in cancel culture, and but I do believe that she would be the best person for planning and zoning. I think it's to the detriment to the town to have someone who is coming in totally green. And I really hope that you consider that. And regarding the minority representation, when I was on town council, there was a bevy of Democrats on planning and zoning. We had Mike Cherry as the chair, Roger Tremblay, who was a Democrat, Peter Borch, Ken Coe, who was a Democrat, myself, who was a Democrat, Ed Lynch, who was a Democrat. That's more than the 4. Did we think about party lines? Not a bit, not when it came to subdivisions, to the plans, to wetlands, to anything that came forward. You don't think about party, you think about what's best for the town. So I behoove you to please reconsider, put whatever feelings you have aside, if they're personal, and I don't know if they are, I'm just hoping that the best for the town is done. That's my honest opinion. And thank you for taking the time to listen to me.
Of course. I regret that you did not get my email with the social media post. I agree with you. I don't like cancel culture. Again, this isn't about canceling anyone. Again, if it were personal or even about something like, cancel culture, I would not have endorsed her for, I think it was the Senior Housing Commission. So it's not about that. It is about what's best for the town. I'm going to speak for Councillor Soms, though he's not here. His comments included the fact that he had spoken with Ms. Evans about speaking before thinking. And again, this is just the kind of thing that can get the town in legal trouble. So my thoughts on it have not changed. I appreciate that she's a hard worker who wants to volunteer for things. I appreciate that it's a heavy lift. I am confident that Mr. Alt is capable of learning, and we need people to get in there and learn. We do. So my thoughts on it have not changed. I am not inclined to vote for Ms. Evans. I am inclined to vote for Mr. Alt for this vacant seat.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
So the general statutes, your town charter points to the general statutes about filling vacancies, and the general statutes would tell you that your alternate members have to have a minority representation too. So are you planning to put 3 of the same party on your alternate board?
I was not aware of that.
If you look at, I know there's the difference between elected officials and appointed, and I think that should be explored a little more carefully because the statutes break it down pretty clearly. Not to mention if it was an unfulfilled term, it should be the same party. So it's general statute. I think it's 9.167A if I'm remembering from a long time ago memory.
Well, so here's the thing. Even if we can't vote for we can table Mr. Alt and leave the seat vacant. I am not comfortable putting Ms. Evans in that seat. I personally would rather leave it vacant. I feel that strongly about it. So if we need to table Mr. Alt to explore the minority representation question for the alternate portion of this commission, we can do that. But that does not change my opinion of Ms. Evans filling this particular seat. So Roxanne, do you know anything about that?
About the minority representation?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was just looking at the, actually, I was just looking at the roster itself. And let me just go back over there.
I mean, the whole idea of alternates is that if somebody's absent from the main commission, you have the opportunity to replace them with a person from their own party. And you can't do
Right.
that if there's nothing on it.
So currently on the Planning and Zoning Board, you have Mrs. Scanlon, who is a Democrat, Marty Wood, who is a Democrat, Tony Capon, who's a Democrat, Thomas Boudreau, who's a Republican, Nate Woody is an unaffiliated, James Arwick, who is a Republican. These are the alternates, I'm sorry, alternates. James Arwick is a Republican, and Paul White Carver is also a Republican. So I know when we have talked about boards that had alternate members in the past, the question was oftentimes raised, is it an overall of the whole? So for instance, there's 8 members on that board. So would the minority representation be amongst the entire 8? Or as Juliet mentioned, is it amongst the regular members and then the alternate members? I know in the past, it seemed like the opinion at that time was it should be, the minority representation should be based on the full, say, 8 members of that committee. So,
But also, and also is that seat, you know, is it, you're fulfilling the end of that term? It was her vacancy, correct? Hillary's?
that is
Correct.
Yeah.
So, and she was a Democrat?
Yeah.
Then it has to be by the same party. I mean, that's in the
I don't-
statute section, I'm reading it right here, D. So 167A, D.
I'm not sure if that's correct for a commission. So here's where we're at. There's a question on whether or not we can have 3 Republicans or 3 members of one party in the alternate seats. So let's do some more homework before we vote on Mr. Alt. That still, for me, does not change. If we need to fill it with a Democrat, I'm still not comfortable with that Democrat being Ms. Evans. So, we can table or take no motion on, take no action on Mr. Alt, but I'm ready to vote on Ms. Evans.
Okay.
Okay, so you already tabled Ms. Evans, so that means you're going to have to remove it from the table and then vote on it.
Okay, I vote to remove it. Do I have to move to remove it from the table?
Yeah, because you tabled it. You probably
moved-
should have just, yeah, remove from the table and then act on it is what you need to do.
I move to remove from the table the motion on Ms. Evans.
Second.
All in favor?
On the
Aye.
floor.
Aye.
And then now you need to move the motion itself.
Okay, I motion to recommend the council appoint Ms. Hillary Evans, D, 1538 Route 12, Unit 16, Gales Ferry, to the Planning and Zoning Commission as an alternate member to complete a 3-year term ending October 21, 2023, filling a vacancy left by Ms. Evans.
Second.
I'm going to be voting no. Are you ready to vote, Mr. Irwin?
Yes.
All in favor? All opposed? Vote no. I
Okay.
vote no. Motion fails.
So that's 0 in favor, 2 opposed.
0 in favor, 2 opposed.
Got it. Thank you.
So
I'm sorry, I just lost track now. With Mr. Alt, did you actually vote to table him? Or did you decide to withdraw it?
I don't know that we voted to table. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, I mentioned tabling.
Yeah, you
Let's table it and do the homework on that.
Okay, so do you just want to vote on the table part so my records are right?
Sure. I move that we table the appointment of Mr. Terry Alt.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 9. I make a motion to recommend the count, wait a minute. Oh, this is establishing the citations. Wait a minute.
No, it should be the Agricultural Commission.
All right, Roxanne, we have the issue that when a printed copy doesn't always come out the same as what's on the website.
right. Okay, let me go see what the.
So, yeah,
Okay,
so
Want me to read it to you? What it should say is motion to recommend the council adopt proposed amendments to ordinance 322, an ordinance establishing an agricultural commission for the town of Ledyard as contained in the draft dated November 15th to expand the agricultural commission's scope of work.
I believe we're on number 9, which is the motion to recommend the town council set a virtual public hearing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think something got jumbled up. That's not what it should be.
Uh,
Go
What's
down,
number?
on number 9,
on.
go down, pass that motion, go down the second bullet point, and that's what it should be. Do you see that, Whit and Andra?
I do.
Yeah, so that's,
Okay.
I think that's what it meant to be. It
Yeah,
was-
so item 9 is supposed to be to vote on the amendments to the Agricultural Commission, and then item number 10 is supposed to be to set a public hearing for the Agricultural Commission and the one you just adopted earlier, which was the proposed amendments to ordinance 300-009, so we could do them all together
I
in
see.
one public. So it does get frustrating sometimes because I know I put things in certain places and I go back and they're not there.
Yeah.
They're somewhere.
So we need
So-
to go to item 10 first.
Okay.
All right. I make a motion to recommend the town council adopt proposed amendments to ordinance 300-022, an ordinance establishing an agricultural commission for the town of Ledyard as contained in the draft dated November 15th, 2021.
I second that motion.
Okay, this is just a slight expansion of their role, which includes them being an official liaison between the farming community and the town council.
Okay,
Any-
and are you gonna vote?
I'm ready.
I'm ready to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. All right, motion carries.
And then what I was going to suggest, Andra, because if you look down and you see on my agenda, the printed one, it's number 12, motion and discussion of possible action to draft an ordinance regarding voting district boundaries. Do you see that?
I do. I have it as item 13.
Okay, well, when the registrars reached out to me and mentioned that the election people said that we need to have an ordinance based on our charter with the changing of the voting districts that's being done as a result of the latest census. So in order to change the voting districts, we need to have an ordinance.
Mhm.
So they wanted it to be somewhat general so that every time the districts are changed based on the census, we don't have to keep adopting ordinances. So we drafted this ordinance, which is attached. And at the time of the publication of this agenda, we had sent the draft ordinance off to the election official people at the state to see if it would be acceptable. And they got back to us on Tuesday and said that it would. So I didn't know if maybe you wanted to act on this next and then go back up and act on setting the public hearing, and we could put all 3 ordinances on that one public hearing because they're all relatively minor adjustments.
Okay, that works.
Does that
for
make?
you. Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Irwin, are you good with that?
I
13 and then-
understand the streamlining.
Okay, so we are going to move to item 13. Well, at least it is on my paper copy.
Yeah.
So discussion and possible action to discussion and possible action to draft an ordinance regarding voting district boundaries. So the chart, according to our charter, we can only adjust voting district boundaries by ordinance, and they must conform to congressional district boundary lines. So we really need to, we must do something here. So that's it. We have to have the ordinance.
Right.
Well,
So
then I'll go ahead and make the
changes-
motion to recommend to the town council that we adopt the proposed ordinance dated 1/5/2022 regarding the voting and district boundaries.
Second. Any questions, comments?
None.
Ready to vote?
I am.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. So back to item 9. All right, let me take time to get this straight. Roxanne, does the proposed ordinance for regarding voting district boundaries have a number?
Not yet. It won't get a number until it's approved
Okay,
because it's a new ordinance.
okay,
The other two,
okay. So I make a motion to recommend the town council set a virtual video conference public hearing on Wednesday, February 23rd, 2022 at 6:30 PM in the council chambers, Town Hall Annex, 741 Colonel Ledyard Highway, to receive comments and recommendations regarding proposed amendments to the following: Ordinance 300-009, an ordinance establishing citations for zoning violations and short-term rental noncompliance as contained in the draft dated January 5, 2022. And Ordinance 300-022, an ordinance establishing an agricultural commission for the town of Ledyard as contained in the draft dated November 15th, 2021. And also an ordinance regarding,
new ordinance. Go ahead.
did I make a mistake?
Keep going. I just want to make sure we mention it's a new ordinance because the other two are amendments.
Oh, okay. Okay, new ordinance regarding voting district boundaries.
Second.
Whew. I need a sip of water. Okay. Questions, comments? Ready to vote?
I am.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right. So we include, oh my goodness. Are we on item 11?
I believe we have item 11 to go to now.
Okay,
Maybe that's item 12 for the protocol for remote meeting participation. We haven't talked about
That's
that.
it. That's the one.
okay. And that's the last thing we have, right? We bounced around.
Right.
Okay. So discussion and possible action to revise protocols for remote meeting participation to provide provision for hybrid meetings. Let me open this up. So the changes are minor and they're really meant to carry through. So the council acted on this based on the governor's executive order back in March of 2020. The council acted to establish protocol for remote meetings in early April of 2020. So now that we've been doing it and we're interested in going back to in-person meetings, we do realize that there's a huge benefit to having remote participation available. So the changes in this are to oversee that, to continue to allow hybrid meetings, remote meetings, and establishing posting of notices, the guidelines for posting notices. Yeah,
Yeah, I got a chance to review the changes and I thought that they were good additions.
yeah. So it's really to allow for hybrid meetings going forward, regardless of a pandemic. Okay, let me find where sorry. Okay. So Mr. Irwin, do you want to make a motion on that?
So would this be an ordinance or would this be an administrative?
It's a procedure or a policy.
I make
So
a motion to recommend the town council adopt the policy. Or maybe it's forward to the town council. I'm not sure which I should make there.
Yeah, adopt is good.
Okay, make a motion to recommend the town council adopt the the revised protocols for remote meeting participation.
Second. Any questions or comments? All in
Yeah.
favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All right, I just want to review this and make sure that we didn't leave anything out.
Yeah, it got kind of squirrely there towards the end.
It did. This week was very crazy, or last week, I should say, in trying to get all, the agenda was changing by the minute last week and trying to get everything together. Oh, can you add this? Can we include that? It's just, it got a little hairy.
So,
Counselor Ingalls, may I ask Roxanne a question quickly?
yes, ma'am.
Roxanne, okay, so you said this would be a new ordinance for the voting district boundaries, correct?
Yes,
Okay, so there's
Yes.
no pre-existing one, and you said it was an
No.
amendment to the charter?
no, the charter requires, there's a section in the charter that requires if we're going to change voting districts, we need to do it per ordinance.
Okay, and we haven't changed the voting districts before.
Well, if we did, we don't have we looked through all our records and we didn't have an ordinance on file.
Oh, wait, we did. Remember when part of Birdland, Gales Ferry, went to District 40? Okay, and so you can't find an ordinance for that one.
Yeah, I couldn't find one and the town clerk couldn't find one on file either. So if they did change the districts before the ordinance, they didn't follow through with one.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further? No, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. All right, counselors, we'll see you in 23 minutes.
See ya.
Thanks, Roxanne.
You're welcome.